this call that Northern Ireland's going to have to remain in the customs and single market, you know, if a soft border is to be maintained. How do you see a resolution to this part of the Brexit negotiations?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. This is a key issue. In fact, of all the issues that are being discussed at the moment, I think the Irish border is the most intractable because the current position of the Irish government and indeed the European Commission over the last week or two has been exactly as you say, that they can't see any solution other than keeping Northern Ireland in the customs union and maybe even in the single market. That is totally unacceptable to the British government and particularly, of course, to the Democratic Unionist Party that support the British government because that would be essentially drawing a border in the Irish Sea and bringing Northern Ireland closer to the Republic, and politically that's very, very difficult. I have to say, I think a lot of people had assumed that this issue would remain intractable but would not be a barrier to proceeding to the next round, because in the end you can't solve the border unless you are solving the future trade arrangements. What we've seen recently is the Irish, upping the volume, perhaps starting to hint that they would block progress to the next stage unless this issue is resolved. I still think that's unlikely. This is an existential issue for Ireland, but equally they cannot afford to precipitate any kind of crisis in these negotiations. If there's one thing worse than a dispute over the border, it's a hard Brexit and a no-deal Brexit. So in the end, I think that this won't be the barrier, but it's going to be very difficult to solve.
What gives you confidence, Rupert, which you said before the break? You seem to have some confidence that we will progress to the next stage of talks, the actual trade element in the not too distant future. What gives you that optimism? Yeah, two things really. First of all, just the big picture is that in the end it's in the interest of both sides to keep these talks on the road. The cost to everyone of a breakdown in talks is very, very high. And then secondly, in the details, despite a lot of the noise that we've had around sort of pessimistic noise around these negotiations, there's actually been a lot of progress made, particularly on citizens' rights, where I think we're basically there. And actually even on money, which is probably the most important issue, and where I think the issue is now just around choreography rather than substance. The British government has the space politically, domestically, to make the next offer on money, to up the amount, to say it will honour its past liabilities. But Theresa May must get, at the same time, the quid pro quo. She must be seen to make progress on talks around transition and future trade arrangements. She can't afford another situation like her Florence speech where she offers up more money and doesn't get anything in return. If they can get that choreography right for December, then I think we can get a positive step. Now, of course, that still means the talks around transition and trade are going to be long and arduous, but it means that we'll have got over this first hump.